Hey everybody, so today we're going to show you how to make a laptop case, a leather laptop case for any size laptop. We're going to show you how to make your own pattern. And the cool thing about this is we're going to use a new hide from Hermann Oak. This is their Expedition 1881 leather. And the cool thing about this is it's water resistant. It's not a chrome tan leather, it's 100% veg tan. And they call it their Oak Guard technology, something during the tanning process that makes this water resistant. So check this out. So laptop's there, leather's here, this is water. And it just beads up. It's pretty crazy. And then you want to dry it up. Doesn't even leave a mark at all. It's really cool stuff. So we're going to use this to make our laptop sleeve because it'll be a little bit of added protection, and it's really, really soft. So I'm excited to use this stuff. So making a pattern for a laptop sleeve is fairly simple. We're just going to measure, we need 3 measurements. We need the length, the width, and the height, thickness of the laptop. So I'm going to say 12 3/4 by 9. And then I like to put the laptop on the ground and then find the tallest part of it. And this is about 3/4 of an inch. So once we have these measurements, we can draw up our pattern really, really easily. So we're gonna have one piece of leather that folds around the laptop, and then the laptop slides in this way, right? So that means we need to double these measurements essentially. So our piece of leather is going to be a long piece. There'll be the center here where it folds. And what I'm going to do is the height, I'm going to add 3/4 of an inch to account for the thickness. So we need 9 3/4 and 9 3/4. Then I'm going to take half of that, about 4.5, we'll say 5 inches, and I'm going to add that onto the end, and that's going to be our flap over for our closure. The width, I'm going to add 3/4 to each side, and it's only 3/4 thick, but that'll also give us our extra sewing allowance as well. So 12 3/4 plus 1.5 is going to be 14 1/4. And so all we're going to do is add up these 3 numbers. We have our 14 1/4, and that's our pattern basically. We know that if we fold this over, we'll have a 5-inch flap, the laptop will fit perfect, and you've just made yourself a custom laptop case. I added everything up, and we just need one single rectangle, 24.5 inches long by 14 1/4 inches wide. Your measurements are going to be different depending on your laptop. Just remember, you need the height, the width, and the depth of the laptop, and to add the depth, like we mentioned before, to account for thickness and an extra for seam allowance. I'm going to use a Sharpie on this just so it shows up on camera. You're probably going to want to use something that makes a little bit of a lighter mark because the Sharpie can show up if you don't trim it properly on your finished piece. I've made my first straight line to work from. Then I'm going to use a smaller ruler on this. I'm going to make my marks here at 14 1/4. And remember to always make 3 marks so that you make sure you get a nice straight line. And once we do this, we can make our parallel line at the top, and these will be our 2 sides. And last thing is to make our, get this lined up here, there we go. Last thing is going to be to make our top and bottom line, and I'll show you how to do that at a perfect right angle. So I'm just going to take my piece of computer paper here because it's a right angle, and I'm going to line it up with one of my straight lines. I'm going to draw that out, and then I'm going to finish it with my ruler, and that gives us one end. And then we're just going to measure 24.5 from there, and we'll have our rectangle to cut out. So this leather is a little bit thin, so I'm gonna just glue two sides together, two pieces together. So I have the piece that we cut out. I'm just going to make a couple little marks outside of the measurement so I know where to glue. And we'll just glue these and bond them together so that we have nice full grain leather on the inside and the outside. It'll also help. This is really nice finish. It's not finished, but the back of this hide is really nice, but it'll also help us slide the laptop in and out of the case. So now we're just going to glue everything up. Alright, so we have this glued double-sided and trimmed up. This stuff is gorgeous when it's double-sided. This is super, super nice. So once you get to this stage, remember, this is going to be our main body. We don't really have any other parts besides just a couple little snap pieces for our closure. I'm going to put the laptop that I'm designing this for in here, and I'm going to fold this up just to make sure that my measurements are good. Because remember, this is, we're kind of showing you how to do the concept. We're walking you through the concept of this. Every laptop's a little bit different, so all your measurements are going to be a little different. But the key is that you have the concept of the design down, and you can sort of adjust your measurements so that they work in the context of the laptop you're making this for, right? So I always just take the laptop, because unless you're a full-time laptop case business, you're probably not going to be making 35 or 40 patterns for different laptops, because you're not going to make these a whole bunch. So I always take the laptop that I'm using, and I make sure that my case is going to fit, because at this point we could always trim this down a little bit if we wanted to, but I'm happy with this. And now the next thing I want to do is I want to cut a curve here, because as it stands, this will work, but you'll have to kind of reach in under this to pull the laptop out. If I put a curve here, I can get my thumb right here and pull it out without having to reach under the case. So I'm going to show you how to cut a curve with just any found object that's round in your house. So you can choose whatever shape you like. Our goal is to just get this seam down about an inch in the middle so that our thumbs fit to grab the laptop. You can use something small and circular like this and do a little divot. I like a nice broad curve, so I have just like literally a dinner plate. I've marked the center of this seam here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up, and the easy way to center this is to just count the number of squares on either side if you're using a gridded mat. And that way you'll know, once you have the same amount of squares on either side, that this curve is going to be centered. So I'm going to go with, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 and 7 here. I'm going to take my scratch awl and mark my curve. And then, so we have that curve there, I'm going to take this plate and I'm going to butt this up here and make another curve that meets up. So instead of just a hard curve, it's going to kind of curve once and then curve again and then curve out. It'll look nice and smooth. And we're going to do that on both sides. And that is how you do, or how I do, a nice curved top without having a pattern made up. So if you're using one thicker piece of leather, you can skip this step, but since I have two pieces of leather glued together, I need to sew along this seam before we sew everything together. So that's just what I'm going to do now. I'm going to lay my stitch line, punch my holes, and sew this up real quick. So once we have our curve cut in and I stitched this up and stuff, we're going to go back and actually go this way. We're going to figure out where we're going to glue these together. We're not going to do it yet because we have to put our closure system in. But as you can see now, you can reach in, grab your laptop, and your thumb is not having to go under. As an aside, this leather, so this is, again, this is the new Hermann Oak 1881, I think Expedition leather it's called, and it's waterproof, but it's still a full veg tan. This stuff, it stamps perfect, it burnishes just like normal veg tan. It's a little bit softer than like a normal saddle leather, but I'm really impressed with this stuff because normally when you get a waterproof leather, it's like a chrome tanned or something like that, and you have to work with it differently, but it's working pretty much exactly like another veg tan. It's just a little bit more soft. So I'm really impressed with it. The stamp looks beautiful. It's really nice. So I'm just gonna put a little mark on the inside here so that we know roughly where we're gonna glue down, and then we have to figure out a closure system for this, and I think I'm just gonna use a couple of snaps. So first thing I'm gonna do is just use, this is just some metal polish, but I'm gonna use the curve on this to cut the curves on what's gonna be our flap. So we'll do that on that side. And you can make these as round or as flat, or you can angle them in, however you want to do it. And then I'm just going to cut these out. So now I'm going to pick where I'm going to put my snaps. I'm going to use some snaps on this side. On the other side, we're going to use the opposite end of the snap, but we're going to sew in a piece of leather because you don't want snaps directly on your laptop when you close it. So we're going to sew in some pieces. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you need to pick out how far up and in you want your snaps. I'm going to go 1.5 inches up and a little under 1.5 inches, like 1 3/8 over. And just make a mark with my awl. And then the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. So I have my laptop in here again, and remember again, this is when you're doing a single one-off piece. If you're doing more, if you're doing like 10, you're going to want to make a pattern. But if you're just doing one, this is how we're showing you how to. This is how I do it, right? So I have my female snaps installed with the cap that you'll see. I have my laptop in here. This is folded over to show to the mark that we made earlier. And all I'm going to do is fold this over about like that and kind of press down a little bit. And it should give me a little mark. And that's all I need, because now I know that it's going to be 1 3/8 up. I just need to get the distance from the edge down, and then I can just mimic that on this side so they line up perfect. We have our marks. You probably can't see them on camera. We have our marks on our main body where these the other sides of our snaps are going to go, but we're not going to put them through this. We're going to use the main body as a padding so that we don't have any metal up against our laptop. What we're going to do is, I've used my calipers to measure roughly like double the size of our little snap here. And I'm going to cut out some circles of leather that are this size. First by tracing them on the leather. This might be a little difficult to do in one shot here. Then I'm going to cut these out. And what we're going to do is we're going to install our snap onto this. Then we're going to sew this onto our body, the body of our laptop bag, or our laptop case. And what that'll do is that'll allow us to have the snap installed nice and securely while having a double layer of protection in between the metal snap and our laptop. All right, so we'll go over how we're going to assemble this, right? So we have 2 small circles and 2 big circles. The big circles are going to be what you see on the outside of the bag. This is the back of our snap. We're going to put a little circle in here, and that's just going to be a little washer to add a little strength. We're going to put that on the big circle like this. And then we're going to attach our snap like that. To make sure these are perfectly centered, we have our hole that little marking that I made with our scratch awl. I'm going to take my calipers that are set for the same size circle that I cut out, and I'm going to scribe a line. And then I know that this is exactly where I need to put my snap piece to be centered in that spot. So once we have our snap sewn in, all we have to do is we're going to rough up this leather and glue everything up, and we're just stitching all the way around, a little bit of burnishing, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so here we go. Once we have everything burnished, it came out really nice. This leather is great. It's super supple, but it works like regular veg tan, burnished up nice. So we just slip our laptop in there, make sure it's in, and we're good. And you know, because this is the new waterproof stuff, if you spill on it, You don't have to worry about it. You have to clean up your workbench after doing that, but so yeah, so this is it. You can see it doesn't soak through anything. It's not wet at all. This is cool. This leather's cool stuff. And the laptop, because of our little thumb hold, slides right out, slides back in. And of course, you can always, if you want to put pockets or on the front or anything like that, you can do that as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.